Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 79. This week we respond to one of our listeners on the subject of rugby in the US, plus we look at England's growing injury crisis pre the summer tour. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Wood. Hi, Dan.
We've been speaking for like the last 2 hours, so it feels weird to say hi to you, but how are you?
I'm good. What do you mean we've been speaking for the last 2 hours? We do all of this just off
arranging stag do's
off the top of our heads. We don't plan anything.
Well, it certainly sounds like that.
So you'll be very surprised to hear that before we get into this episode, I've got an email to read out, and I'm sure you had no idea this was coming. But yeah, we received an email from a listener, a Tom Fossell or Fossell, and he says, "Hi guys, I live in the United States, but since we are, as of this year, just getting our first viable professional rugby setup ever, over the years I've followed the Premiership pretty closely. And as a result, I've become a die-hard England fan. Always good to hear. I just found your podcast I've just found your podcast on Spotify a couple of months ago while looking at O2's Inside Line podcast, but I've actually found that I like the podcast that you two produce much better than theirs anyway. Thank you very much. Yeah. I had a couple of ideas for you to talk about in your pod. I know you probably get these all the time, so feel free to ignore them. We do obviously get these all the time, Tom. This is not our first email ever, but it was definitely worth reading this one out. So he says, firstly, about what your favourite teams / players are currently in the Premiership. He says, I think I remember you talking about school in Gloucester in one episode and making fun of Billy Twelvetrees. But I can't remember either of you really discussing who your favourite teams or players are. And I, for one, would be pretty interested to hear about that. Secondly, as I mentioned, the US has finally built a viable professional level of rugby in a number of cities throughout the country, with more teams from New York to Chicago, and even teams from Canada looking to join next year. So he says, I was wondering what your guys' thoughts are on pro rugby in the States, how that might affect the Premiership, whether there's a possibility for crossover games, or whether the US might be sending some of their top talent over to our side of the pond once they get the exposure that a professional level of play grants. So he says, bottom line, I really enjoy your podcast, listen to it just about every day, and if either of you ever find yourselves in the Chicago-ish area, contact me and I'd love to meet for a beer. So thanks, firstly, Tom. We really appreciate you getting in touch. And you've raised some very interesting questions.
Yeah, do you know what, Tom? Thanks a lot. That's a really nice review. And guys, genuinely, we will try and get you, whether that be sort of replying directly or mentioning it on the pod, if you get in touch. We really do appreciate it. And Tom, thanks so much for your kind words. But like you say, Andy, there's some good stuff in there, isn't there? Like the American thing I find really interesting.
Yeah, there's a number of things I think we need to talk about in that. And as you say, he's raised some good points. And as Dan said, guys, this sort of stuff is exactly what we want. So as Tom has done, if you want to get in touch, at englandrugbypod@gmail.com is probably the easiest way to do it, or we're on all the social media platforms that you'd expect, and that's at englandrugbypod.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the difference with our podcast compared to perhaps other rugby podcasts, we're not pretending to know more than you guys. We're massive rugby fans, of course we are, but what we say is obviously our opinion as fans, as what we'd chat with our mates down the pub. So we want you guys to sort of challenge us or agree with us or whatever, your own thoughts are, because we're not trying to, say we know we have all the answers, because we don't. We're just trying to give our opinion as, two guys grew up playing rugby who love the sport.
Yeah. So turning to Tom's email then, first question was favourite teams and players. And he says currently in the Premiership. But I'm going to caveat that with, if we're looking at all time, it's got to be Johnny, right?
Johnny is the finest man to have ever laced up boots.
Yeah, closely followed by John O, or in fact any of the 2003 World Cup winning squad.
Yeah, agreed.
But yeah, in terms of the question that he actually asked us, favourite teams and players currently in the Premiership. I think rugby's a bit different to say to other sports, and particularly football and things. And I don't know if you agree with this. There are obviously die-hard fans, But I think there's a lot of rugby fans who might have a team that they kind of are slightly more interested in. But as on the whole, and I think certainly that's the case for me. On the whole, it sounds cheesy, but rugby is the winner. It's the game that I'm supporting, and I would rather pick the side that I want to win in each game that I watch than just follow one team. That said, if I had to choose someone, it would probably be Harlequins, just because of where I live. They're a team that I've followed all my life.
What are you talking about? What do you mean if you had to pick a team? When we lived together when we shared the flats for God knows how many years, your bed sheets were Quins, your wallpaper was Quins towels, Quins bib at the dinner table. Mate, you're a Quins fan.
Okay, I'm a Quins fan. There you go. And you, Dan?
I, on the other hand, do you know what?
He's probably going to lie now and say that his favourite team is Saracens because they're top of the Premiership. But go on, tell us your favourite team.
Exeter are actually top of the Premiership. But no, over the years, I've followed different teams. So there was a period where my uncle lived in Leicester when I was very young. So
when
the
they
team
were
I'd
doing
watched
really
most.
well. So it's Glory
exactly.
Hunter. Glory Hunter.
How weird! And then when I was dating Lou, her old man was a season ticket holder at Bath. So I'd go there a lot. But I mean, we both do. We've both got like a lot of friends who are quite closely related to Gloucester. I've got a very soft spot for Gloucester. Not our friends aren't the players, but they're friends with the players. So I go to Gloucester. Over the years, I've been to Gloucester quite a lot to watch them. My local team at the moment is Saracens. So basically, I'm just naming every Premiership team. I'm going to shut up.
Pretty much, pretty much.
But I genuinely, if a Premiership rugby game's on, I want to watch it. Whereas, I mean, I'm a big sports fan anyway. But at football, I want to watch my team. I'm not that bothered by the others as much. But on rugby, I'm like, yeah, cool. Who's playing? If it's a Championship game, I'm like, put it on.
Yeah. It is very different. It is very different. But okay, so you've got to pick one. I've been forced to pick Harlequins.
Which team am I going to go for? I'm going to go. I'm going to go Gloucester.
Nice. Okay. Well, I mean, which works nicely because, of course, your favourite player is, as Tom mentioned, Billy Twelvetrees.
I love that guy. I
still think he should be in contention for England.
I think he should be England captain.
England captain. Excellent.
Do you know what, though? My favourite player, the player I've enjoyed watching the most, and unfortunately he's been injured quite a lot at the moment, but like I say, when I used to go to Bath a lot, was Kyle Eastman. I thought that guy was such quality. He was just, he could change a game like no one else. I mean, he got a few England caps, and to be honest, he never really sort of shone for England a few good times, but when that guy's playing and playing regularly, I think there's something about him that almost it's sort of like a few other players have it, like Danny Cipriani has it a bit, where they can just produce something that others can't. So I'm a massive Kyle Eastman fan. I'm trying to purposely not pick the England players because I just.
I hear it's difficult not to though because we're the England Rugby Pod and you naturally lean towards the best players in the game and. From an England perspective and looking at the Premiership, that's obviously the England players. But and in that there's multiples. You've got obviously Billy Vunipola, who doesn't love him. Owen Farrell, is one of the best players in the world. Who doesn't love him?
Farrell's a player I respect the most. Just everything about him. Yeah, the way he trains. He's the player I probably respect the most. The player I want to watch the most is Kyle Eastman.
Manu when he's fit.
Oh dear God. Yeah. Actually, when he's on fire, I quite enjoy watching him.
He every game you watch, it's just a collection of. It's like a big hits. It's one of those, big Bosch, Mick the Munch, massive Munches video or something.
That's a great video.
Collection of massive hits, but actually in just 80 minutes of rugby on a Saturday afternoon. So yeah, I mean, obviously, fingers crossed with him that he not only stays fit, but stays fit for a decent amount of time, and we can get him back into the England setup on a regular basis because he is an important member of the squad when he's available. But yeah, so I genuinely don't think I can pick one player.
If you had to say one player. You're loving Sir Marrow at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, Sir Marrow. He's another one. How can you not love that? what he's doing.
He's awesome. He's a legend.
I'm trying to think beyond England, but I just don't think I can. I think it's got.
No, that's fine.
I think it's got to be. But no, Billy. I know he's been injured. I'm going to go Billy.
Billy's world class.
But yeah, Billy, Manu, Farrell, and Samaro would be my 4.
Nice. How I think people listening to this like, we don't give a shit who you like. Let's start talking more rugby on the whole. So
no. Tom was very clear. To quote him, and I for one would be pretty interested to hear about that. So there you go, Tom. You've heard about it now, but we will move on to the more sensible question of the rugby in the US and the sort of the impact that it is having, might be having soon, and what we think is going to happen there. And I think there's probably quite a lot we can talk about on this, because there's definitely I mean, look, if the US tomorrow decided to, I don't know, find a way to take the best talent that they have and put it into a rugby league, it would be the best league in the world. Like,
no, easy.
Maybe not tomorrow. But if you look at the pool of talent,
they've got some hell of resources.
The closest game is obviously American football. If you look at the pace and the power of the guys that play that sport, with the right. I mean, yeah, you're right. Tomorrow is a ridiculous idea. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight. But they have the potential to become a world-class side. The international side, and produce a world-class league, but I think it's going to take 20 years to do it.
Yeah, mate. That's the problem. Not everyone has the potential, but in theory, you could argue China has the potential just because of mass of people. So the American League, I think, and I could just be making this up. This could be bullshit, but I don't think it is. I think they tried once before, but the problem before is it was one guy trying to set up the league, and he was the money holder for like the whole league, whereas now I think the teams are being done separately, like the premiership.
Yeah.
So that automatically makes it a lot better, in my opinion. They, like you say, the resources they have from the American football side, it's not ingrained in their culture, so that's a massive thing that does, like, in New Zealand, everything's rugby. In Wales,
I mean, the thing with America, you look at the high school. It all starts at high school. The high school teams have bigger followings than some of our top sports teams over here. Sport in high school is huge, and that's where it all begins. Or Little League or whatever they call it. Before that all happens, and the problem you're going to have is that these kids, they go to school and they go, right, what sport am I going to play? In fact, a lot of them, they pick their school, or their school, has a sport that's their main one, whether they're an American football school, a baseball school, a basketball school, whatever it might be. And there probably aren't as many rugby schools. So you're limiting your talent that way.
Probably.
And we have it over here, obviously, with the comparisons with football. These kids are going, look, they're all natural sportsmen, the ones that end up going on to be professionals in whatever sport they choose. So they probably, in a lot of cases, at a young age, could go either way. They have that natural ability. They just need to then go and train. Are they going to pick rugby? Is there enough money in it? That's the first question.
I mean, that's
150 million a year to be a top professional American footballer or baseball player. Or maybe, or a very nice $500,000 a year to be a professional rugby player.
Which in America, I think would probably be ambitious. I have no idea what their financial situation is with.
Yeah.
But so
that's the first thing I think is a potential issue.
So I think what they need to do is they can't just look at this. It needs to be a long-term plan. It needs to be a long-term strategy. The guys putting the money in, and great, I'm brilliant that they're doing this for the game we love, but they need to accept they're probably not going to get a return for 5-10 years.
Yeah, 8. Two World Cup cycles, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good, because you have to grow the interest, you have to grow the players, and like you say, as players and the teams get better, there is the very real danger that a few of the top players may well come over to Europe because, the leagues are more competitive, and quite frankly, the money will probably be a lot more.
But however, this is the thing. Yeah, even if the money isn't, even if the money over there is massive because the money exists if the right people get involved. Do these guys? Yeah. On the one hand, it's like the pride of playing in your own country, but these top flight players who are going to be called on by the likes of Sarries and Leinster and Toulon and all the top teams in Europe. Are they going to be dragged away from America because they want to play with the best players in the world? So it's another factor that I think that probably is, as Tom said, going to drag talent over to our side of the pond.
But to caveat that, and I'm not saying that this will necessarily improve the standard of the league, but to caveat that, what might happen, which actually could perhaps help the profile, is maybe some of the older players who were legends, the likes of, for example, we see Dan Carter going to Japan.
Yep.
People coming to the end of their career could go to America. Now, their names will probably not mean much to most of America, but it will do to a few more people. So you might just help.
It'll draw more interest from. Yeah, it'll draw more interest from other parts of the world as well. Which if America starts getting more global eyeballs on what they're doing, then it just gives them more incentive to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
So.
But that's not the solution to becoming a competitive world class sort of setup. And to, America, to be fair, in the sevens they're up there already, and in the 15s they're getting better all the time. So they definitely have the talent. But to maintain that and to really reach the kind of the top, you need the league as well, and that's going to take time. And I think they will lose players. Over the course of getting to that point, there will be players that move over, and it will be one of these situations where, at some point, the talent that remains in the States will have reached a level that draws those players back, and that's when we'll start to see things change. And it may well be that it flips the whole thing around at that point, because there may be a shed load more money in it, and you may find that there are European players who start to go over there for the cash.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, I think that's very long term.
Yeah.
But also, do you know what? It almost sounds like it would be negative. I think it's a brilliant thing. Yeah, I really like the fact they're doing it.
You've had the same kind of top 10 in the world forever since the game began, really.
Yeah.
So it's about time that you've got Japan doing what they did in the last World Cup. The Americans looking much stronger. On the sort of the European side, you've obviously got teams like Georgia.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's good for the game. It's good to have more competition. It's going to put pressure on teams to get better. But I think I don't think it's going to happen that quickly.
Yeah, and what I don't want to see is, because I think Tom mentioned this as well, sort of crossover, like about playing the matches. Yeah, sure, playing friendlies. I don't think you can have an American team in an English league or vice versa, because it's not, it's just not practical. You can't play top level rugby, especially, I think, with the jet lag and things, because that is the sort of time where you might get more injuries. So yeah. I hope there's a close crossover with regards to pre-season and even the odd exhibition match like they do every year. But I don't think you can do it as part of a season. I don't know if that's what Tom was suggesting, in fairness, but
no, I think he probably is talking about the possibility of crossover games. But I agree with you. I don't. That friendlies only. It's not going to work just because of the distance. It's not going to work until they invent teleportation, and then we'll do it.
Have you not got that yet where you live?
No, they haven't installed it.
Oh, okay. Oh god, they're bad down there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an interesting one. This American League, something I'm going to watch closely. And what I think they've done really well is from what I understand, they put a lot of foundations in place early on. They didn't, they weren't stupid about it. They really understood. This is the impression that I've got. They really understood that they need to, you can't do this half-heartedly. And you've got players like Alex Corbisiero, who's over there at the moment, and is, he lives over there, and he's part of it, and he's helping I don't know in what capacity, but he's certainly a face of rugby over there.
Yeah.
And there are people, I think there's a few others, so, ex-internationals who are part of this. And that's great. It's good that they're getting involved. And I really hope it works. I'd love to get America a bigger part in global rugby. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's getting it into schools as more of a desirable kind of main sport. That's going to be the key, just because of the way that sport works in the States. It will automatically give it the exposure that it needs. Because towns kind of, their high schools become a bit of a focal point, and the high school sports team, if that is a rugby team, then that's what, we've all watched Friday Night Lights, and if you haven't, you should. It's awesome.
It is awesome.
That's the American football version, obviously. But, when you start to create a similar thing with rugby, because that is the sport for that town, but it's how easy is it to do that? It's a relatively new thing for them. So that will be the first step in terms of a long-term plan to develop the game, I think.
So, quick question, and I'm not trying to undermine American football here, because it's a great sport and it's very physical. But, like in American high schools, the football guys were jocks, were sort of alpha males. Do you think rugby might even be able to take that over? Be like, yeah, sorry, we don't have to wear, we don't have to wear helmets to protect ourselves. Oh, were you wearing padding there, sweetheart? Do you think the rugby could almost?
This is what I don't think you'd have. More? I don't think you'd have American football and rugby in the same school. That's the problem.
Yeah, maybe, unless it's a very big school, which a lot of them probably are.
But but maybe in schools where, basketball is one of the key sports. It's an indoor sport, so rugby becomes the outdoor. I don't really know. Or maybe it's a case of saying, well, actually, we're changing our sport. Schools where they're just not very good at whatever the sport is. Maybe they decide, we're going to do a bit of a rebrand, and actually rugby is going to become our thing. I don't know enough about how the high school system works over there, other than what you watch on TV, but
which is 100% real.
Yeah, of course. Mostly documentaries like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, that's like, it's so weird, isn't it? Like, if you're on Netflix or Amazon Prime, the amount of documentaries they have, and a lot of them are just about high school rivalries.
Yeah,
that's how big American football is. I mean, could you imagine? Like, you went to Wellington, probably one of the, if not the biggest rugby school in the country. Wellington's certainly up there as one of them. I can't imagine them ever doing a documentary about Wellington rugby.
No. Well, maybe they should have done. The Haas went there.
He did loads of people went there, didn't they? They're very good rugby school with Whitgift, Coulson. So there's a lot of them, but yeah, Wellington's certainly one of them. But even that, I mean, it's just absurd. No one would even consider it, because
it's just the interest isn't there in it. Yeah, so it is weird. It is weird, but this is the differences in our cultures, I suppose. America is so big by comparison that I guess towns need a sort of a thing to get behind.
It's for a social focal point.
Yeah, exactly, and that seems to be what it is, and that's the key. You got high school sports teams that take 50,000 people and sell out.
That's insane. And so I remember once seeing something, and we're digressing here, so we'll move on in a sec. But seeing something saying, how good is it for the kids? Because the high school football star, that could be the pinnacle of his life, because that's when he's sort of lionized by everyone, and then it goes out and it's like,
well, as we said, that documentary Friday Night Lights, it highlights that, doesn't it, with the guys that after high school, where they were legends, they stick around in their small towns, and suddenly they're not legends anymore. It's depressing, and they hang out with all the young high school people, and then it all turns a bit weird. And watch it, guys. Really good documentary.
Should we not be trying to sell more rugby stuff?
Yeah, let's move on to more rugby stuff. So Tom, I hope that's answered some of your questions. Obviously, follow up with us. We obviously, as we said at the beginning, we get a lot of emails, but we'll try and dig out your reply if you send one, and see if we can't respond to it. And guys, if you'd also like to send your emails through, again, we'll dig through them all, because there are so many of them.
Just so busy right now.
See what we can find. But yeah, Tom, really appreciate you getting in touch with us.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Hopefully that's gone some way to responding to some of your questions. But
and Tom, just to let you know, the danger is when everyone always writes in and saying, like, oh, if you're this way, call me up for a beer and we'll come meet you. We actually would do that. So if we are that way, do expect to meet for a beer.
Indeed.
I'm done.
Indeed. Right. Well, look, let's move back to England rugby. Got a few things to talk about, but right off the bat, quick kind of. I don't know if it's so much updates. There's at least one update, but possibly some information that we've failed to share previously regarding the tour, and that's those guys who are injured and can't make it. JJ was always a bit of a. We were unsure. It's confirmed now. He's having foot surgery. He's out. Anthony Watson is out. He's got an Achilles injury. Courtney Laws is out. Knee injury. Nathan Hughes is out. Knee injury. And then the latest is Dylan Hartley, although he's actually been out for a while because it was, I think the last time he played rugby was against Ireland in the Six Nations.
It was from that match, wasn't it?
He got a concussion and he's been told he needs to rest and he needs the summer off. So he's not going either. I'm looking at those names and there may be more that we can add to that nearer the time. I'm looking at those names and I'm thinking, for the most part, it's not too much of a problem. I mean, Nathan Hughes is probably, well, and Courtney Laws, but Nathan Hughes certainly is one who would have wanted to have been there.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I think Billy hopefully is going to be back, and with Sam Simmons playing the way he's playing, there's competition at the back, number 8. Although I would prefer to see Sam Simmons at 6. Or 7, don't know which way around. Anthony Watson and JJ, not too concerned there.
So the Anthony Watson one I find quite interesting because if you say fullback, so is he going to take Mike Brown? He probably will. We mentioned Alex Good the other week. How about Woodward at Gloucester? That guy is on fire. He's English qualified and he's absolutely bossing it right now.
Maybe.
That I'd like to see him.
I mean, don't forget.
I'd probably like to see him go ahead of Good. I think Good is the better fullback right now, but he is also a bit older, whereas Woodward could potentially.
Yeah, don't forget. Jack Knoll is a Lion who played fullback.
Yeah.
So he's a possibility there as well.
Elliot Daly.
Yeah, I think Daly's probably wasted at fullback, to be honest. But yeah, he's a possibility. So there are definitely options. But I think in terms of the risk to the players themselves, I think. JJ probably more so, but there isn't. Well, no, that's not true. I think he's shown Eddie what he's capable of. Both of them have, and so I think they were probably going to get left out. If it was me selecting, I'd have left them out anyway, and told them to rest.
Yeah, agreed.
Courtney Law's probably the same. There's competition there, but I feel like we know who the competition is. And that they know it, and so I probably would have rested him too.
Yeah.
The big one actually is Dylan Hartley. I think this is a problem, and I'm not really sure whether it's a problem for him or it's a problem for England because we've talked about how important he is as a leader, just because of the leadership that exists in the England setup, and it's fairly limited. Well, certainly that's the lack of it. Yeah. But there's also been a lot of talk about how he's just not good enough. The two guys that everyone's been calling for to come in instead of him, they will, I would imagine, be the two guys.
So Jamie George and Karen Dickey, I assume you're referring to.
Yeah. So I imagine they'll be the two that will go, although obviously Jamie George was a Lion, so it depends whether or not he decides to rest all Lions. But yeah, if they go out there and they absolutely boss it, is it a bit weird to then come back and go, thanks guys, you were awesome, but we're bringing our captain back?
Yeah, so this is an interesting part because let's make no mistake, South Africa are going to be proud. Their rugby's taking a beating. They've got more players coming back, available at least. So this is going to be a tough tour, and I actually think it might be good not having Dylan Hartley there. So the other leadership will go. I suspect Owen Farrell will be. Oh, will Owen Farrell go though?
I wouldn't take him.
Because of the Lion stuff. Who will be captain?
Well, this is it. I mean, he's just going to have to pick somebody.
Owen Farrell might go, I hope he doesn't.
I think it's an opportunity to just say, What I hope he doesn't do is what he did in Argentina and make kind of like, having 3 captains. I think it's an opportunity to give someone that job and say, there you go.
But I want it to be someone who could potentially actually be the England captain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would take George Ford out of that because he can't be guaranteed. No one can be guaranteed a spot. But I want it to be someone who you think. I keep saying Joe Launchbury. I might slip by that.
Yeah,
I don't think he will be.
Ben Youngs, possibly.
Ben Youngs is a good shout.
I don't really like scrum halves as captains, but Laidlaw seems to do it all right. Or did
Georgie Gregan did it well for years.
Gregan did it well, so it's not unheard of. I'm trying to think. I mean, what about like a Mako? Is he sensible enough?
Mako, yeah, I would have thought so. I don't know the guy that well, and by that I've never met him.
Yeah. But Marrow, but I think he'll be left behind.
Yeah, Mako might as well actually.
I mean, maybe because of his age, Marrow will go, and maybe he will be given the opportunity. I'd love to see that.
Marrow needs a break, mate. He's played so much rugby.
He does need a break, but he's only about 12.
Yeah, but even exactly, he needs his sleep time. I mean, he's probably got your Quinn's pajamas. But he needs less.
Why would he have Quinn's pajamas?
He's a Quinn fan. He's a massive.
Is he? Yeah.
Just on the slide.
Couldn't get in. Had to go to Sarries.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Do you know what though? Actually, it's interesting you say that. Can get in. Queens have got a record of turning away really good second rows. They did it to George Cruz.
Did they?
They did it to. I can't remember. I think it might have been Ben Kay or something. No, it wasn't Ben Kay because he was straight there. But it was another like full-on England international. Maybe even Courtney North or someone. So, but I'm pretty sure no one's turning down Marrow. But
no. Marrow's also not going anywhere.
Yeah. He's what you mean leaving Saracens?
Yeah.
Yeah, he signed a new massive contract. I don't know what it is.
300 years.
Yeah, exactly. And but Wace, although actually rugby's sort of stamped down on it, but so he might stay. So the captain isn't interesting. What I don't want them to do is put a sort of Dan Cole as captain.
No, I'm not convinced Dan Cole will go.
No, he may not. But I don't want it to be somebody who's just not going to be the captain again. So I threw out Hask last week.
You did.
Is this not? It can't be Robshaw.
He could go out there and do a job, but I just don't think he's. I wouldn't. And I say the same thing with Robshaw as well. I don't think he's going to make it all the way to the World Cup just with the talent that's coming through. Just from
I'm starting to think Haskell might. I think a new club will do him well. He seems so energised.
Yeah.
He's getting married. Congratulations.
He is.
To
your old mate's daughter, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Richard and Judy, if you're listening. Hi guys, how are you?
Do you remember Dan?
Yeah. I think we'll leave that there.
Okay.
But yeah, massively thrown me off. But no, every time I hear Haskell speak in an interview, and he's kind of like this as a character anyway. It's one of the reasons I actually really like Haskell as a sort of a player and a sort of personality, certainly a rugby personality. I don't really know him as a personality outside, like with his other endeavours, but he seems really positive at the moment, to a point where I'm starting to think he wants this. To me, he seems to be the one wanting it the most.
Oh, there's no question. Like I think if he didn't want it, or he genuinely didn't believe there was a possibility, I don't think he'd be looking for an English club. I think he'd have gone abroad, and played and for the money and said, do you know what? I've got 3 years left maybe in my career. Can't remember exactly how old he is, but let's say for example it's that he'd have gone, right, who's going to pay me the most money to come and play for them in the next 3 years? Whether it's Japan and I know he's done all that kind of stuff before, but I think he'd have gone for the money. He's doing what he's doing because he wants to play for England. I'm sure he doesn't. I'm sure he doesn't.
Because he's got so much other stuff going on, doesn't
he? Yeah, but look, he's not a multi-millionaire. So, and as a rugby player, his career
I don't think
is fine.
That doesn't drive him. Like when you hear him speak, like he's even said in interviews, "I will play for nothing."
Yeah,
which is probably not the best selling point. His agent's probably like, "Oh man, shut up!
Say that.
What are you doing?
They just slashed your offer in half."
Yeah, but there's something about him I'm liking a lot at the moment. I mean, I like the guy anyway, but there's something about him I'm really liking at the moment. He seems to have a positivity that perhaps England rugby has been lacking of late.
Yeah, well, we said in the last episode that we were going to wait until we knew who was in the finals, and then we were going to make our prediction for the squad that will go to South Africa. So a big part of that, when the time comes, will be making a call. We'll have a think, and obviously, guys, if you've got any opinions on what you think England should do with the captaincy in South Africa, bearing in mind players that need to be rested and all the rest of it, get in touch. Let us know at England Rugby Pod or englandrugbypod@gmail.com, because I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts. But we'll
or Face Space or one of those or something.
Yeah, Face Space or Twitter box. So moving on then, because we're in danger of going back over the same stuff we went over last week. No English players on this year's European Player of the Year shortlist. Surprised?
What is the shortlist?
So it's down to Sexton, Furlong, and Fardy, who's the Aussie who plays for Leinster.
Yeah.
And then a couple of French, Machinot and is it Nakarawa, the second row?
Yeah, no, that's who's the winger, isn't he?
Is he a winger? I don't know.
Yeah, and if it's the guy I'm thinking of, awesome. And when you see that list, it's hard to argue it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last year was our very own Owen Farrell. Do you think English players? I don't know what the list looked like when it was bigger. Do you know what? Do you think that English players have been unlucky in this respect because of the Six Nations?
No, I'm trying to think. Even throughout the season, can you think of one who you would have on that list?
Billy.
He hasn't played.
I know. He's one of the most successful English players this season.
Yeah. But so I can't think of an English player I'd have on that list.
No, it's probably fair.
Maybe
it's something I spotted. I thought I'd bring it up. See your thoughts.
Maybe a bit left field. I think that one of the best performing English players has been Sam Simmons.
Yeah, quite possibly.
But I still wouldn't have him on the list. Like when you look at the names on that list, you're like, yeah, it's hard to argue that.
There you go. Well, that's the. Well, I don't know when that gets announced. Presumably after when the season finishes. But they're the final. The final five. So no chance of an English player repeating what Owen did last year. But
well, it's been very English heavy because before Owen there was like Nick Bendenham. There was Steph Armitage,
who's incidentally just done an Achilles and is in a pretty bad way out. Is it Poe he plays for, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Has he? I didn't know that. That's news to me.
Not that he was ever in danger of going on tour with England, but he's not the guy we wanted in 2015.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, because they said in exceptional circumstances we'd pick players abroad. Well, yeah, he was the best player. That is an exceptional circumstance. Well, it was to me anyway.
Mate, you are preaching to the choir, as they say.
Yeah.
So what else to do? Was there anything else you wanted to cover? There's one more thing I want to go into, but it's probably going to be a good one to finish up on. So, is there anything else you want to cover this week?
So, do I want to cover this week, or do I want to wait? It was more about. I think it probably deserves a longer chat than we're going to give it now. But it was more about looking at the rugby as a whole at the moment, especially English. And I'll give a teaser for next week.
A teaser, like nice little trailer.
Exactly. So one of the things, there's been a lot of negative.
Sorry,
that was quite good.
Thanks.
There's been a lot of negative stuff going on in rugby at the moment, which is unfortunate. You look at there's a Yorkshire Carnegie player who's been banned for 4 years for steroids. 4-year ban suggests to me, I don't know the ins and outs. I can't even remember the guy's name, but that's pretty serious. Israel Folau with his homophobic statements. I mean, look, he's religious. He truly believes it. Everyone's entitled to their belief. Why he felt the need to put that on Twitter and just cause that is beyond me. I think it's ridiculous. I think there's no need.
But I mean, look, we can maybe go into this when we discuss.
What, saying gay people will go to hell? Yeah.
No. I'm not on his side. I'm saying you just said people are entitled to their beliefs and it's a religious belief and all the rest of it. But slavery obviously wasn't a religious belief, but it was a disgusting thing that a lot of people believed.
Shit, that escalated quickly.
Believed in.
Yeah, I mean,
is it all right to say that you're entitled to your opinion? If you're a racist, are you entitled to your opinion? Like, I think.
Well, no, they're dickheads. So,
but my point is, I think look, the law clearly states that there's nothing wrong with the choices that you make when it comes to your sexuality. So, should we allow? He can think what he wants, but should he be allowed to? I mean, maybe we're then in danger of.
The problem is, it's written in the Bible. He was quoting the Bible, and I don't want to get to
everything's written in the Bible if you look closely enough.
So I actually have a theory about it, and this sounds like I'm just trying to be controversial. I'm actually not. I don't. If he believes that, fine, but there was no need to be outspoken. I actually think, and good for him if he is. I actually think Israel Folau might be gay.
Interesting.
I know that sounds weird, and Israel, if you are, good for you, mate. Like, whatever makes you happy, but it just seems so weird that he would do that. I mean, he must have
protesting too much, kind of scenario.
Yeah. So we actually had a guy at school who sort of the year above, and he sort of overplayed the alpha male so much, and we were all like, he was so. And he was like a bit homophobic. He's now gay and married to a guy, and cool. Like they seem very happy, and I'm glad for them. But it kind of, when Israel Folau does that, it kind of reminded me of that.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know Israel Folau. I've never met the guy. I have
Exclusive.
no basis for this. I have no basis for this, but it did make me wonder. And it, who gives a shit? Like,
well, exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And actually, the fact that I even brought this up made it sound like I'm trying to be controversial. I've probably just, not helped. But it was, so to get to my wider point, there's been quite a lot of negatives, like some Spanish players have been banned for approaching the ref. There's been quite a lot of back chat over the last few months for ref. And I just wonder, I think rugby's still too good a sport, too good a people, be it players, fans. And by too good a people, I mean people who just love the game and people who just want the game to be, how it was, to allow this to go too far. But it does worry me. And I wonder, and the reason I'm bringing this up, and I've done this in a really direct way, of course.
Yeah. Straight to the point, mate. Just,
yeah, exactly.
Just wait me when you get there.
I will. Has any of that creeped into England? Has any of the attitude, I don't mean the specific homophobia or anything, because I don't, no, of course not. But has any of the sort of negatives, sort of back chat bit, but sort of almost the sort of not playing to the true spirit of the game and forgetting what, forgetting what rugby's all about?
Probably a little bit, but I think the advantage we have is the quality of the referees, and love them or hate them. The guys that have been doing this a long time, and they know how to deal with teams, and so when it starts to happen in the games, they're able to kind of cut it out straight away.
Yes.
Do you
thing? And actually on that point, there's I don't know the exact details, but I think this is great for rugby as a whole. There's a woman referee who's just been named. I believe she's going to be reffing international matches.
Oh,
I just think that's so awesome. Like, such a good step forward to sort of, because rugby's all about being inclusive.
Yeah,
it's all about that, and I think that's a really positive step. I don't know the full details, but she's certainly the first woman referee to get to the position she's in. So I'm really sorry I don't know your name, but if you do hear this, massive congratulations. That's awesome. And it's done on merit as well, which is exactly the right way to do it. It's not just we need a figurehead. It's like, she's a great referee. She deserves to be there.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with #feminism. It's because she's good enough to be doing the job, and that's what she's doing there. And yeah, that's good.
Do you feel like a bit of a dick when you say #something?
Oh, it's the thing, isn't it? That you just hear it so much now. Hater, #feminism.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, that's exactly it.
Which my point being, it takes away from the talent that exists that, this woman is going to be a world class or, a top flight referee on merit, not because she's a woman.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the Israel Folau thing, I think, sort of pisses me off a bit as a rugby fan, because rugby is such an inclusive game.
Yeah.
He's sort of going against the spirit of rugby, a game that's given him so much. He's got his belief, he's got his strong Christianity beliefs, and he's absolutely entitled to them. But
he's wrong.
Yeah, you're a dick. You are a dick.
Simple
you are just wrong. Yeah.
He's wrong.
Yeah.
Taking things literally from a book that was written God knows how many years ago. By some guys trying to sell a story.
Yeah, and it's just. Do you know what? It's a little pathetic.
Yeah,
it is. It is just pointless and pathetic, and that's why I said, is there something else going on here? And
also, let's not forget, we've all seen Rome. We've all seen gladiators and things like that. This was the Bible is based around a time when buggery was a pretty regular occurrence. So,
what the fuck are you on about, mate?
Mate, that's what they did then. That was a thing.
All right. Wow. Well, I did not expect slavery and the word buggery to be in this pod, but
we cover everything. We cover everything on this pod. We like rugby. Like rugby, we are inclusive.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, no. So that was, I really fucking milked that point, didn't I?
You did. I mean, but you started by saying, "I'm just going to give a teaser." I think most people listening don't want to hear. They don't want that to have been a teaser. They want that to have been the topic
I think
covered.
It has covered the point anyway, so I don't think that's a topic next week.
So I, on the other hand, will provide a teaser, but like you, I think it deserves more time than we've got, and that is the concussion issue in rugby. Guys, I'll say no more about it, but it's a massive talking point. There's loads of stuff online. Just go to the BBC. There's a great article on there. There's some very interesting statistics, and next week we will delve into that a little deeper. And if possible, we will get in touch with the pod doc, who you won't have heard from possibly ever. He's only done one episode with us, but we'll get him back. For those of you that have heard, he'll hopefully be here with some views that are slightly more professionally grounded than ours. But lots to talk about on that front. So
as much as it hates me to say this, he's actually, well, obviously he's a very good doctor, obviously, but he's actually very knowledgeable about rugby as well. Don't tell him I said that.
No. I mean, does he listen?
I have no idea.
I mean, I'd like to say yes.
Of course he does. But obviously he's been a doctor for top-level rugby teams as well, hasn't he? So, and he loves the sport himself. Like, he played it.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to offer some interesting insights that'll come from a very different place to our own. So, yeah, we'll cover that next week because I think it deserves a decent length episode. I think that probably rounds things off quite nicely for today.
Coolio.
Guys, as always, thanks for listening. As I mentioned at the beginning, and as Tom Fussell showed, get in touch and we will, do our best to reach back out to you, either directly or like we have done today through the pod. Email us at englandrugbypod@gmail.com. Get in touch with us on social media at englandrugbypod. And let us know what you think. Also, don't forget to share with friends and family, and all the rest of it. Spread the good word. And if you get an opportunity, head over to iTunes, rate us, review us. It's how we get noticed. It's how we grow. And obviously, the goal is to be as big as we possibly can by next year's World Cup. So we look forward to chatting to you again next week.